Morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kenneth Feinberg, a lawyer in Washington, D.C., and I must say I received a very, very interesting invitation to come all the way here from Washington, from the association. Dear Mr. Feinberg, we really would like you to visit Mannheim and address over 1,000 lawyers, the president of your association, the minister. We'd love you to come because we'd like to learn more about your unique work and all the errors, blunders, and mistakes you've made over the years in doing what you do. We are fascinated to learn how you screw up and would like to learn more about your work. Well, now that's an incentive, I must say. Actually, a few things about my work and why I question the value of what I do in the United States here in Germany. You see, in the United States, we have a legal system that is unique in the world. It is the adversary system, the advocacy system. You choose your lawyer, judge and jury will decide. Now, every once in a while in America, it's very, very rare, there is a unique tragedy which so overwhelms the American people. September 11, the BP oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, the General Motors ignition switch failure, cover-up, where our elected officials are so pushed by our citizens to bypass the American legal system, bypass courts and juries, and instead, in unique situations, establish a separate program which will define eligible claims, process those claims, and compensate lavishly, generously, victims. And in return, although the program is entirely voluntary, nobody has to participate. In return, if you decide to participate in these special programs, you must sign, "I will not go to court." There are no appeals. There are no committees. There is no review except by the very individual who's been asked to design and administer the program. 13 days after 9/11, Congress in Washington passed a law. And the law simply said anybody who would rather go to Feinberg and get money, airplanes, World Trade Center, the Pentagon, anybody who would rather go see him file a claim, you will be paid within 60 days, on average, $2 million tax-free for a death, $400,000 tax-free for an injury. You don't have to. If you want to go sue the government, the World Trade Center, the security guard companies, the airplane manufacturers, you can do that. But if you'd rather go see Feinberg in this program, learn what you'd get from him, and if you're satisfied with the money, I will not go to court. Well, virtually everybody took the money. 97%, 2,983 families of victims of 9/11 came into this program and accepted the compensation. But the law said in writing, if there is a mistake, if you feel that you were not given justice, your only remedy is to go talk to Feinberg. You can't go to court. You can't appeal. BP oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. In 16 months, I received 1,250,000 claims from 50 states and 35 foreign countries. I looked it up yesterday. I got 11 claims from Germany. I didn't know the oil got to Germany. 11 claims from Germany, German citizens. No appeal, no right to go to court, not effectively at least. So when you discuss error, mistake, blunder, understand that what I do can only be understood in the context of the type of litigation system we have in the United States. Protracted, costly, inefficient. It works. It works despite all the flaws. The American legal system will never be replaced in America. It is ingrained in the fabric, in the history of our country. And it doesn't really offer much advice or precedent for Germany, England, or any other nation on earth. The 9/11 fund, the BP oil spill fund, the GM ignition switch fund. 9/11, in 33 months in 9/11, the fund, we paid out in public taxpayer money $7.1 billion. 5,300 eligible victims. In the BP oil spill, in 16 months, BP money, $6.5 billion paid to 250,000 eligible victims of the oil spill. GM ignition switches, in 1 year, $600 million GM money paid to about 400 deaths and injuries. Now, the programs are very interesting. BP, I was asked by President Obama and BP to design and administer the program. 9/11, President Bush and the Department of Justice asked me to design and administer that program. General Motors, the Congress, urged Mary Barra, the CEO of General Motors, get Feinberg and do this program. Now, the programs have worked, but they are aberrations. They are one-offs. They are unique. They will never replace the American legal system, nor should they. Nor should they. Now, I defend the 9/11 compensation program every day. It's now almost 20 years, 15 years. Every day I'm asked, was it wise public policy? Yes, it was a very, very good idea at the time. It sent a message to the world that we in America, in times of a national catastrophe, take care of our own. It was sound. Don't ever do it again. Don't ever do a 9/11 fund again. You should have read some of the letters I got when I was administering the 9/11 fund. Dear Mr. Feinberg, my son died in the domestic terrorist attack in Oklahoma City. Where's my check? Dear Mr. Feinberg, I don't get it. My daughter died in the basement of the World Trade Center in New York City in the original 1993 attacks committed by the very same type of people. Where's my check? And it wasn't just terrorism. Dear Mr. Feinberg, last year my wife saved 3 little girls from drowning in the Mississippi River, and then she drowned a heroine. Where's my check? You better be careful about setting up very special, streamlined compensation just for a very few people. Everybody else, fend for yourself. You're on your own. But for 9/11 victims, BP oil spill victims, GM victims, a special, unique program. Bad things happen to good people every day in our country and in every country. There's no 9/11 fund. After Hurricane Katrina in the Gulf of Mexico, over 1,000 people drowned in that tragedy. There was no 9/11 fund. In an egalitarian democracy, which frowns on special treatment, you better be careful about using taxpayer money to compensate the few. So I'm glad to defend these programs, but I want everybody to understand that what I'm doing is most assertively, especially in the United States, not the wave of the future. My programs, when I'm called on by a president or a governor or a Congress or a mayor, the programs that I administer are exceptions to the general rule. And the general rule in the United States has, for 250 years, worked pretty well. Not perfect, but I want to tell members of the German bar that these programs that I administer, like 9/11, could never, ever be successful without the support and the encouragement of the American lawyers. It is the lawyers who represent people every day in these programs with great advocacy and skill. And it is the lawyers that on rare occasions point out my errors. You know, there are a few. And when I make an error, I do all I can to correct it, knowing that the buck stops with me. There are no appeals. Either I correct those errors, those blunders, those mistakes, and I make them all the time. You cannot help it. When you have the volume and the obligation, the responsibility to administer these programs. So let me just say that it is very, very interesting and intellectually challenging to study the unconventional responses that I engage in. But I warn lawyers all the time, don't stop working. What I do is only a rare, isolated exception. It is not everyday justice in the United States. In fact, I claim that what I do is not really justice at all. It's mercy. It's mercy. It's not justice. Giving a family that lost a father or a daughter or a son or a wife, giving them a check, compensation, when most of them say to me, Mr. Feinberg, you can keep the money, give me my daughter back. How's that? That's where the real stress is. That's where the emotion is. So finally, and rather ironically, I am honored to be invited to come to Germany and to address this group of lawyers, fellow lawyers like I am. And although the lawyers in the United States may look on what I do as sort of a threat to the rule of law, I view it instead as an aberrational, rare act of mercy, where it is the very lawyers that are bypassed that make these programs, rare as they may be, a success. And for me to have just a few minutes to deal with distinguished lawyers from America's best friend here in Germany. It is an honor, it is a privilege, and I thank you.
Guten Morgen. Okay.